pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Barber.
Here.
Dr. Clausen. Here. Julia DeMarco Cicero. Present. Mrs. Lieber. Present. Mrs. Pacapinicia. Mr. Schroeder.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Steve.
Here.
Dr. Mussolini.
Here. I'd like to welcome all visitors this evening. Public comment. First up, Ryan Oakey.
Don't worry, this is going to be brief. I've got a band concert to attend. In recent discussions over guards and teachers equipped with guns in our schools, the board has expressed concerns over the statistically remote possibility of an armed intruder threatening our children. Yet a majority of this board appears blind to everyday risks to students which are magnified in a larger school building. All too many children experience bullying and aggression, sometimes of a sexual nature. As a former high school teacher, Mr. Steve, you especially should know this. Smaller schools in our community can better provide a safe environment for our children. Let's keep our neighborhood schools. Board members, be wary of what you hitch your wagon to. It ain't a star. We will be ready for whatever you do tonight, and we will fight. Now to the band concert.
Good evening. Cooking numbers. In the financial world, it is a fraudulent activity performed in order to falsify financial statements, a frequent practice of lying and cheating for one's own personal gain. This, needless to say, is illegal. The same can and should be said for cooking numbers on a capacity limit to get approval for a plan to move forward. Previous numbers were far too high for traffic flow in an area that is already troublesome. You are expected to meet with PennDOT later this week to present those new lower capacity numbers because last Friday, unbeknownst to some board members and the public, the President changed them from her previously submitted numbers and announced it through the agenda. Why? Because he thinks he can. Very troublesome is also that the district has no established geographic plans as to which students from what areas will attend either school. It appears, however, that East Pike will be housing the majority of the economically disadvantaged students. This can possibly create a stigma of it being for the poor students. Growing up here, there was always talk by adults of certain areas, for lack of better terms, being the bad areas. Those kids, through no fault of their own, face problems when they enter the high school arena because, let's face it, adults are the biggest gossips and bullies, and it trickles down to the kids. Based on studies and research done by ProPublica and PA Public School Performance Profile, East Pike is above both state and district averages for the percentage of students eligible to receive free or reduced price lunches. On average, 34% of students in PA qualify for these, while East Pike is at 48. Analysis found that all too often states and schools provide poor students fewer educational programs like advanced placement. Studies have linked participation in these programs with better outcomes in life. These analyses use free and reduced lunch to estimate poverty at schools. Their findings are based on the most comprehensive set of access to advanced special and classes and programs in U.S. public schools known as Civil Rights Data Set, released by the U.S. Department of Education for Civil Rights. This board's bullying tactics to get what you want will likely cause further disadvantage and increase in the percentage of students being stigmatized and overlooked. But who cares as long as you get what you want, right? So is it about the kids? It doesn't appear so. The bigger the school means more fall through the cracks. And this is nothing short of discrimination. It is said you can only get as much power as you take. You've taken enough. The rift you have caused in this community will likely be felt for years to come and for future boards. For this reason, and for your other shenanigans like unprovoked volatile attacks outside the boardroom, once again, Doug, Steve, please resign immediately.
No.
Good evening, board. During the last
last school board meeting, during the last school board meeting, the board president said emphatically, "I am for the safety of our kids." I am now left guessing whether this statement was only for when we talk of guns and armed security. It doesn't seem to hold true when we talk of school bus traffic safety. The question asked should not be, what's the number of kids we can have in this building so we can have this approved? The question should be, to assure the safety of our children, it is in our best interest to have a turning lane. It seems the magic number here is a student occupancy capacity limit of 897, not 898. Add one more child and we need a turning lane. Who will take responsibility for the 897 children if a serious accident occurs that could have been prevented with the construction of a turning lane? School board members, as well as administrators and teachers, are responsible for the safety of our children. The outcome of this vote on this motion tonight will fall in the lap of every school board member here. Will you, as in the past, follow the leader and vote to allow the fudging of numbers in order to have the permit granted? I urge you to vote no and demand our children's travel will be as safe as possibly we can make it. Saying I am for safety of our children and then manipulating student capacity to beat the requirements is more than irresponsible. It is producing the possibility of a serious accident, not once, but twice a day for 897 elementary-age children. Who does this? Not us, not here in Indiana. We don't operate this way. Do the right thing.
I made copies for the board of the letter that we talked about at the meeting, so I'll just hand it out to the public there. My name is Cindy Boyer and I'm from Shalakta. My topic of concern with the mega school project is its potential disruption of archaeological evidence that the site may contain. I spoke with Dr. Ben Ford this morning and he agreed to let me speak on this matter as he has another commitment. Dr. Ford's concern is for any evidence that may disrupt the building by building the new school near the creek area. He submitted additional information to the State Historic Preservation Office because plans that place gravel pads, access points, laydown, and soil stockpile are within the above-mentioned areas. McKissick told me at the earlier meeting that they would not be using that areas, and if that is so, they need to send a letter to the State Historic Preservation Office stating that and making sure that we do not interrupt anything that may be there that could be of historic significance. It's also my concern because over much of the country, history is being changed to meet the convenience of a few. History should be conserved for us and for those who come after us. We can learn so much from archaeological finds concerning our past. If disturbed or damaged, the evidence is lost forever. Dr. Ford told me that heavy equipment is going to be going over those areas again and again and would ruin any finds that may be at the site. Don't be in such a hurry to go forward that you don't stop and preserve what may be there that we can learn from. Of all groups, a school district committed to the education of our children and grandchildren should not take this subject lightly. Concerning the advanced site-ward bid package, an abbreviated bid time was discussed at the earlier meeting. I believe you should take appropriate time for the process to be completed so that we can get the best bids. At the February 13th board meeting, a motion introduced by Walter Schroth and amended by John Barber was approved, not to sign or execute any construction contracts until all needed permits for a new Ben Franklin building and a renovated East Pike were physically in hand. And the district will not enter into further debt through bond funding until it has accepted construction bids and committed the district to building a new school or to making renovations. I believe that motion must be rescinded according to Robert's Rule of Order, Section 25, before any motion to solicit bids for an advanced bid package or proposals for a construction trailer are made. As for a construction trailer to not be part of the bid specified for the project, All project money should be contained in one bid. This deception only makes it look like the project will be less expensive. The cost will still be paid, but from a different pot. Thank you for your
Good evening. We feel compelled to come again tonight to advocate for children in academics. Despite recent teacher cuts, last week's approval of a 5-year teacher contract with almost 2% annual raises, $32 million new school project, and spending motions at almost every board meeting threatens to permanently degrade Indiana's high-performing schools. The board's Super PAC 5 continues to ignore the community's majority against new debt and spending and disrespect the previous school board's 2013 investment of $14.9 million on ESCO energy-saving renovations that included 3 elementary schools you now plan to tear down, replace, or sell. Selling Eisenhower for small sums to private charter entities will allow others to reap the remainder of the $5.7 million guaranteed over the remaining 15 years. Good stewards of taxpayers' dollars would keep our schools a while longer, pay off debt, and do more thorough research to build a school for the future. On April 10th, board members and administration failed to acknowledge reading a 94-page Constellation report from January showing utility savings in excess of $653,000 for years 1 and 2, over $33,000 more dollars than what was projected in savings. This unread report cost the taxpayers approximately $25,000 annually. Tonight is the first official meeting on new architectural plans differing from the last ones in November of 2016 previously sent to the Pennsylvania Department of Education, White Township, and PennDOT. Tonight's new plans are generating new meetings, questions, concerns with White Township, PennDOT, and the community that must be addressed. Board previously voted not to move forward until permits are issued, so there should not be any motions related to this project tonight. No permits have been issued. Board members should dismiss politically motivated suggestions and motions asking to misappropriate money for what is clearly a project-related expense, like a construction trailer, as an item separate from the bid, that will make a school project appear less expensive. It's rumored a trailer could cost outrageously $50,000 to $100,000. Each board member is responsible for ensuring project costs and numbers, like numbers of students, are accurately reported. Motion capping new Ben Franklin student capacity at 897 opens up even more questions with student placement, new boundaries resulting in student assignments with unequal number of students, 900 in one school and a max of 475 in another. We hope the community will have input in working with the board to ensure both schools offer equal educational opportunities beyond tangible school characteristics such as proportionate distribution of students taking into consider socioeconomic factors. Thank you.
Marge Craig. Larry McCoy. Barb Barker.
I have to speak really fast, so pay attention. Let's talk about PlanCon F document that you are considering. This document is inaccurate and incomplete. On page 1, the line is marked NA on board's response to PlanCon E. This needs to be clarified. I really hope NA means not available versus this does not apply to you. Because burdening the district with an extra $5 million more dollars when you are denied PlanCon funds for your inaccurate and incomplete documentation is beyond irresponsible. Also on page 1, the box is checked for written certification from County Planning Agency of the project's conformance with applicable comprehensive plan. This is absolutely inaccurate. Why is this box checked? The Indiana County Office of Planning and Development on March 3rd sent the district a lengthy document that states that your project is inconsistent with the Indiana County Comprehensive Plan. On page 2, asbestos abatement and food service boxes are not checked as prime contracts. Although they were marked as prime contracts in the amended PlanCon E that was sent to the state earlier in the year. You may have not noticed since you voted to send that document to the state without ever reading it. Also on page 2, where are the drawings for the project site plan and the subsequent drawings that are marked on this page? The public has only been provided structural drawings. On page 3, A, B, C, D, your enrollment numbers have changed since 2012 and 2015. Should the PDE not have the most current and accurate figures? Also on page 3, did Eisenhower go? Eisenhower Elementary is not listed as one of your elementary schools. Last I checked, a large number of bright and talented 4th and 5th graders attended there. On page 4, there's a typo in the kindergarten room size comparing the table of figures to the drawings. Also on page 4, the pre-K lists 0 occupancy. Are you eliminating this program? On page 5, the line is blank as to how many kids the cafeteria can seat. Has this issue not yet been resolved? On page 6, there is another typo for a special education class size between the drawings and the tables. On page 7 and throughout the document, there are 3 different square footage sizes listed in this proposed building. Which one is correct? On page 11 and 12, there are conflicting capacity figures. In one location, student capacity is listed as 1,125. In another location, student capacity is listed as 1,040. This affects subsequent calculations within the document. Speaking of capacity, tonight there are 2 conflicting motions on your agenda. The motions include sending PennDOT an occupancy figure that is different than the documentation that is going to be sent to the Pennsylvania Department of Education. So I ask, which state agency are you going to send false information to? Thank you.
We have just heard some significant points being made, and I urge the board to listen carefully to the community voice. Last week, after the article in the Indiana Gazette regarding Lycoming County, I mentioned that I did not know very much about that area and how it compared to our situation here, the internet. It is such a wonderful tool to use to discover all kinds of things. But do you know what is even better than the internet? Getting in your car and driving to Montoursville and having coffee with Ronald Snell, the president of their school board, and fellow board member Denise Johns and Bill McCleary over the phone. We spent about 4 hours, and they are really incredible people. In their school district, their school board was so devious that they had their Act 34 on February the 24th, 2015, after the time allotted for submission of petitions to run for school board. So these 5 candidates ran as common sense candidates and won a write-in campaign for their primary and won 75% of the vote. Amazing, the power of the vote. Ron and Denise shared their story and their personal experience and expertise. They gave me advice and counsel. I learned so much from them and feel confident that we do not have to repeat their mistakes. The Lycoming County decision was a local decision. It was not a PA Supreme Court decision. According to Mr. McCleary, the legacy of that previous board that approved the building project is one of bankruptcy and a community that is so fractured that he does not feel that it will heal. Make no mistake, that will be your legacy. And we will remind the community every time an academic program is cut, an athletic program is cut, every time a teacher is cut, that you were responsible for those changes. These cuts will have to be made to pay for the new school building. That will be your legacy. So, we in this community are ready. We have done our research. We have done our homework. We are united and we are taking this very seriously. Democracy is hard work. I do not take my right to vote lightly, and I hope all of you in the community will exercise your democratic power and come out to vote tomorrow. We will not be led to believe that this project is a done deal. We expect this board to respect the results of tomorrow's election. You, the majority on the school board, have forced us in the community to make a difficult decision. We now have a lawyer. We as a community have on the eve of the election, if the majority on this board proceed with any motion that advances this project, puts this project out for bids, or ties the hands of future boards, and believe that you can disregard the results of this election, expect that we will be seeking an injunction in the common pleas court in 10 to 14 days.
Jeff DeBar.
Cookie, you stole my thunder. Okay, I'm going to talk about that too. About Montoursville High School. Hey, for one thing, the judge, he denied to make a motion on a decision on that. He did not want to be a super school board. So he denied that's how they won. I know you stated in the paper about the Supreme Court, saying in one state Supreme Court cases, the justice held that the discretion of the school authorities will be interfered with only when there is a clear abuse of it and the burden is a heavy one. Supreme Court put forth a heavy burden of proof for courts to intercede in the decision of making school board decisions. How much of a heavy burden of proof do you guys want? I'll give you a couple. People losing their home. The school district cannot afford this right now because they're going to be going in debt. How much more are we going to go? We keep changing the numbers. It's a numbers game now. One thump, bump, bump, bump. If you can't get it right, don't do it. You can't go 1,300 Plan Con 897 on one part. The school, in my opinion, is too small. 25 students, I don't know. I think it's time you take this off and get rid of this school and start working on education. Our state representative, Bob mentioned, he's a Republican from Montgomery County, noted that 19 cents of every dollar that comes into the school goes to the classroom. That is pathetic. The teachers are eating up half the budget. I know you have special interest, that takes up 25%. Where's all the learning at? Our schools are for learning. I know we got to pay for buildings and that, but education is going to actually kill Pennsylvania, just like it's killing the rest of the United States. And everybody's trying to make a plan. They're switching. They're thinking of other ways of funding. Pensions are going crazy. What are we going to do? I say let's stop this school project. And some of the stuff that Mr. McKissick said, I can almost guarantee you, those bids are out in Macero's back pocket right here, right now. Guarantee it. That's how they're going to get it, all your bids done within 14 days.
Thank you for letting us to speak tonight. I'm here tonight because I care about our community, I care about our kids' education, and I care about the well-being of Indiana County. It's clear the course that the board is on is wrong whenever there's near opposition to the project. Let's take a look at some of the numbers. First number is 3. That's the number of county commissioners who opposed the project. County Commissioner Mike Baker, Commissioner Shereen Hess, and Commissioner Rod Ruddick have signed a resolution against the project. Next number is 2. That's the number of how many of our representatives in the General Assembly opposed the project. That's Don White and Dave Reed who've both spoken against it. Next number is 12. That's the number of Indiana Borough Council members who opposed the project. Kitty Good, Dr. Peter Broad, former State Representative Sarah Steelman, Don Lancaster, Gerald Smith, Dr. Ben Ford, James Smith, candidate for Recorder of Deeds, Bill Boudris, Dick Thorell, Casey Newell, Lisa Kuznetsky, and Dave Coker are all unanimously against the project. Sherlock Borough, that number 6. Six council members of Sherlock Borough have opposed the project. Armstrong Township Supervisors, 5 have opposed the project. 5 White Township Supervisors, and let's take a look at the total number. It's 36-0. When 36-0, when 36 people of your elected officials, that's the unanimous number of elected officials in the district opposed the project, you should be concerned that the course you're on is wrong. Let's take a look at another number 1 and number 2. Number 1 and number 2 reflect the academic performance of Eisenhower and Horace Mann, the top 2 performing elementary schools in the state in their category. Those are the 2 that you're proposing to close. Another number is 122. That's how many supporters of your building project that we found across the district. 6 of those are sitting on the board. There's 6 spouses of those on the board. Opposed to 100, in reference to 122, in contrast, 1,984. That's how many people, opponents of the project that we found. $32 million, that's the amount of money this is going to cost. $10 million of interest. Tomorrow's election day. There's 5 opponents of the project. Lowry, Harley, Kukrow, and Barker. 4 is the number of seats that are up for election. 13 hours is the amount of time that the polls are open on election day. We had a lot of people committed to go out and vote on the project. Let's take a quick poll in this room. If you're planning to vote for people that oppose this project, please stand up. I'd like everyone to repeat after me. I commit to vote tomorrow.
I commit to vote tomorrow.
Thank you for your time.
Good evening. Speaking this evening as President of the Indiana Borough Council, I represent the unanimous sentiment of the Borough Council and the Mayor of Indiana. I don't really have anything to add to what I've said on previous occasions, but it bears repeating. The Borough of Indiana is deeply, deeply concerned for the future of our community if this project is carried out. Having community schools is part of our identity, part of what makes Indiana a place where people want to live. Families focus on their schools as a place that they all have in common. Children think of their schools as a second home. Those who live close enough use them as a place to congregate and to play. A huge school in the suburbs is not part of a community. It is an institution to which children are bused or driven, and afterwards they are taken back to their communities. Even those children who live in sight of the school cannot walk there to play. All the studies show that large elementary schools have a negative effect on the education of the children who go to them. The school board has offered no evidence to contradict that. Our current schools have been shown conclusively to work. Keep them. The school district is a government entity comparable to the municipalities included in it. The governing bodies of the 4 municipalities, like the school board, are all elected to represent the people who live within their borders. Those bodies have all made it abundantly clear that they do not want this project to proceed. Tomorrow the voters will express themselves. To ignore them would be to undermine the integrity of our democratic system. You may have the legal right to go ahead as if nothing has changed, but you do not have the moral right to do so.
Thank you again for allowing us to speak at these meetings, as it has proved very fruitful in uniting this uniting us around a common cause. In the recent Gazette article where the Montoursville High School case was touted as a precedent protecting this board to move ahead with its building project, despite the results of tomorrow's election. Mr. Steve is quoted saying, "The solicitor feels very confident that we are fine with everything, no matter what happens in the election." Who is fine? You five are fine. We're not fine. This community is not fine. And that is the crux of the issue here, not the numbers that you may argue with Mr. Harley about. We keep coming to these meetings asking you why you're going forward when we find no solid argument academically or financially, and we have posed multiple sound arguments against it. We have demanded transparency and asked why you aren't listening. Well, things are very transparent now. It's not that you haven't been listening, you just don't care, because you are fine, and it doesn't matter that we aren't. Not one of you has come forward and given a thorough explanation for why you believe in your heart of hearts that we need this new school. Something this unpopular demands that, but instead of logic, reason, or even impassioned belief as a way of explanation, you are fine to move forward simply because you can. This is about more than a traffic study and whether you're using 900 or 1,300 for the number of kids that would require a turning lane. It's not about a number, it's actually about those kids. You say, if PennDOT says that if we have 950 kids in the building, we would need a turning lane. We will tell PennDOT we don't have to have 950 kids there. We could have 900. We will work with PennDOT to say, what's the number of kids we can have in this building so we can have this approved? Who's playing with numbers here? Numbers of children, mind you. If you care about people, shouldn't the traffic considerations really be about the safety of kids and parents and other motorists, pedestrians, and cyclists using the intersection, and not what number will get your plan approved without having to put in a turning lane for safety's sake? As I said, things are quite transparent now.
Thank you very much. Man, I just want to say what he said and what he said and what she said and what she said. Really, I'm just listening to fact after fact after fact, and the thing I like about facts, especially true facts, is that they don't lie. And I think that you've been given a tremendous amount to think about. I think that happens at every meeting. Some of what's been touched on, the moral obligation, the well-being, I've been thinking a lot about that. So much focus on building, and I think that we may be missing the point here. I get it. The concern about a building is, as you said, the institutional aspect of it. We have a society that we're living in now where things have become very virtual. It's obvious that we've been losing the idea of community and gathering and getting together for quite some time now. And to put this many students together in one place, especially with what the plan is to put it where you're putting it. I mean, two main things are going on when it comes to the idea of the building. And my concern is you're going to go through, and if you are going to go through with it somehow, first of all, you're not spending enough money. Okay? Like your $32 million is just way low. Because everything that's being done, as you were speaking about here, is how can we fit this in? How can we fit this in? How can we make this work? How can we keep it inside this budget? You're just not spending the kind of money you need to spend to get the excellence that we need to have for a long-term plan. Community is important. From this letter that I got in the mail, which thank you for sending me that, one of the questions, this went out, I guess it was in January, is that right? Does anybody remember? The one that had all the questions and answers.
Last week.
When was it, last month? Okay, all right, that's good. $5,000. All right, well, thanks for sending it to me. A question was asked, the academic priorities listed do not include education. They talk about inputs and not outputs. The building project does not address how students will learn. The answer, several people have mentioned the importance of the district teachers in public comment and letters to the editor and the administration agrees. In some cases, a building gets in the way of education. Curriculum, what we teach, and how we teach is not expected to be different because of the building project. Well, of course you're not going to change the curriculum. That wasn't the question. The fact of the matter is, in some cases, they do get in the way. Is it going to happen here? Second question, one study on the school size was cited and dismissed, but there are hundreds of studies. Has any other evidence on school size been reviewed? The answer, the study provided to the ad hoc committee and the school board was readily available from PSBA. The administration was not charged with studying small versus large school. That doesn't mean it wasn't a good idea to do that study. Okay, so nobody made you do it. There are many arguments for small schools. Small schools within communities with sufficient staff to meet the needs of students would be ideal. But these two items are in competition with each other. Thank you for the extra time. Every community decides the number of schools they can support and afford. Thank you.
Mr. Dahlheimer, what is your address, just so we have it for the record?
Edgewood Avenue. This is the first school board meeting that I've attended on this issue. In fact, it's the first school board meeting I've ever attended. And I wondered, as I spent time reading the history of this controversy, it occurred to me that I really wanted to know more about it because it had seemed to have such impassioned feelings generated by it, expressed by so many of the people I knew in the community. I must say, having looked at it from an outside perspective and reading what I have read, including the stuff Mr. Varner was talking about, there was questions and answers sent by the superintendent. It occurs to me that I had been talking to people primarily who were opposed to the project for a variety of reasons. So I reached back and reread the information sent by the superintendent and reread editions of the Gazette in search of the answers that basically were being asked by people at this podium tonight to you, the school board. And it seems as though what is missing is a coherent response about how the school project, the mega school, would result in qualitative improvement in the education of our elementary students. As was commented by Mr. Varner, the answer to that, like the answer submitted by the superintendent to many of the questions, was rather technical, in some cases rather narrow, in some cases limited, and in some cases just didn't seem to point blank answer the question. So I would ask the board to consider before proceeding, if you cannot stand before the community and offer a coherent way in which the mega school and its subsidiary projects qualitatively and quantitatively improves the education of our students, then I don't see that we really need to get mired in a lot of the technical details that were spelled out by the superintendent. I didn't even understand all the funding mechanisms and the terms that he used. However, absent a coherent response about improvement, the details of how many millions of dollars are spent for each portion of this are not as relevant. Unless you're willing to have someone speak as a spokesman for the board besides the information that was sent out by the superintendent, I don't see how in good conscience or in fiscal or educational responsibility you can proceed as though there were no counter-arguments, or as though the counter-arguments, which seem to be more numerous and more coherent, can be better addressed. Thank you.
Just take what you want, right?
All right, guys. So, oh,
Okay, so I know we don't get a whole lot of time here, so we'll try and move this along as quickly as humanly possible. You know, I'm just going to talk to everybody that actually has a pig in this room that matters. So, I know a lot of you guys are residents, you're local, you guys have been here for a while. There's probably a story that might ring a bell for some of you. There is a teacher that once worked for the Indiana School District that was...
Okay, Lynn, it's time for you to leave the building.
That's adorable. I would say that too if I was a child molester, sir. So anyway, now.
Okay, right now, you're leaving the meeting or we're adjourning and we're dismissing the meeting.
I can take my 3 minutes or we can have a much larger meeting.
I move to adjourn. Temporarily.
Your one chance is tomorrow. If I went outside right now and slaughtered an old woman, would you let me run a nursing home? No. Care for your parents? No? I didn't think so. So why is Doug Stevens in the chair?
Until
Why? Why would we allow this to happen? Anyone? I have no idea how I have been so blind and so uninvolved in my own child's school that that was allowed to happen. But it needs fixed, and tomorrow is your only opportunity. And we request you resign.
Yeah.
This is recorded. Eleanor Horvath.
It's not about the size of classrooms, it's about the staff and individuals allowed in...
Eleanor, what is your address?
Oh, 1438 Philadelphia Street. It's not about the size of classrooms, it's about the staff and individuals allowed in the schools on a daily basis, ensuring the children feel safe at all times, and educating the children to the best of their abilities so they can become critical thinkers and productive members of society. I actually come from a family of educators, and none ever mentioned that classroom size or building design is an obstacle to overcome. One of the things they are gravely concerned about is curriculums that simply teach to standardized testing and the pressures placed on students to pass unfair exams. The current board seems to be fixated on this money on a multi-million-dollar mega school building and fails to look outside the box for creative solutions, innovative research, and post-effective solutions that will save us money. The board simply can take my money now because this issue resembles a question on the standardized test. Don't think too critically. There's only one answer and it comes from those in power, which is what you're teaching the children. I guess hopeful Howard's bucket-filling school outside is just filled with millions in debt and standardized testing.
Terry Kerr.
Good evening, thank you for letting me speak again. Asking again to stop the project, it's not too late, you haven't awarded projects or advertised them yet. And for the following 5 reasons, again, academics, I think, over and over, it's spoken and you're given evidence that larger schools are not conducive to better learning. Safety, there's over and over, people get up and talk about the traffic impact study issues and the safety of the people and the students going through the parking lots. Something I saw tonight on the virtual tour was the wall outside the school. Yes, you can put some railing up there and stuff, but that's not going to keep kids from climbing on it, being pushed and sitting on it and stuff. Security seems to be an issue. There's windows throughout the building that can easily be broken even if doors are locked. That was seen on the tour also. The site is not conducive at all to a larger school based on the traffic impact study, the playground, the parking, the queuing, numerous things have been spoken about. And then the economics of the community. It's been proven to you that the community is in dire straits, and it's not a good time for this school, and it's not needed either, really. The longer I come to these meetings, the more I learn. The thing I learned at the committee meeting earlier, that the lower floor elevation of the new school is 12 to 13 feet lower than the existing school. For months we were told there was drainage problems, mold possibly problems at the existing school. Why would anyone suggest that you build a school 12 to 13 feet lower on that same site? It boggles the mind, and it's not based on engineering or architects. Your process that you're going to vote on later to circumvent the traffic impact study process is not binding in the future to anyone. Future boards can vote to change that. That's going to be a tough sell this Thursday. Project cost, I've been talking for months that anytime you introduce alternates into bids, squeezing the advertisement, you're asking for nothing but higher cost. Contractors hate having alternate items in their bid. When a contractor bids things, they put profit in certain items. Well, if they don't know if A is going to be chosen, or B is going to be chosen, or C is going to be chosen, they don't know which of those you're going to choose. And maybe you're going to choose the one that they have their profit margin in, maybe you're not. So what does that mean? All their items are going to be more expensive so that they're guaranteed profit. It's industry standard. Twice it's been discussed about you were going to talk to other school districts and seek what they learned from that. There was a motion made on the floor, passed. I'm still waiting to hear the results of that. Thank you.
John Lowry.
Reading the primary obligations set forth for the Indiana Area School District and its bylaws, there are two. One is to focus on the education and learning of students, and the other is to be responsible stewards of the taxpayers' money. I am concerned about this project for multiple reasons. There's no evidence to suggest that this new building will enhance student learning. In fact, the bulk of the research suggests the complete opposite about mega schools, especially in terms of senses of safety and community on the part of students. Rather, more than 200 studies have shown the only factor that can create student achievement is knowledgeable and skillful teachers. This project will also result in closing the two high-performing elementary schools in the district right now, Horace Mann and Eisenhower. This project will only further stress the budgets of the school district, which has already cut teaching positions and discontinued programs that facilitated student learning, citing budget issues. Much has been made of the $5 million from PlanCon. So I went back and looked at Doug Steve's interview from the Hawkeye in February of this year. He said, "People think we're rushing, but that's because there's available money." It's a quote. He continued, quote, "With a $5 million reimbursement from PlanCon, we have a valuable opportunity to save money," which sounds great. But in fact, all that $5 million does is neutralize a $5 million loss to the school system's finances from the 2012 school building renovations that are not paid off. This puts the effective cost of the project back at $32 million. As all PlanCon does, as Doug Steve stated in the interview, is offset lost benefits. It is my belief that the evidence suggests that the stubborn pursuit of the mega elementary school, which would be one of the largest in the state, is an abandonment of the primary responsibilities of the Indiana School Board, to focus on the education and learning of students and to be responsible stewards of the taxpayers' money. This is also reinforced by the role of boards articulated by the Pennsylvania School Board Association to provide for effective education and to be effective stewards of the public resources. This project manages to fail on both counts. This is not about learning. It's not about being responsible with our money. It's about ego. I wholeheartedly agree with the conclusion reached by the editorial board of the Indiana Gazette. The decision that it appears the board is about to make clearly is not one that the majority of constituents want, and they're the ones who will have to pay for it. And it is the one that will be an anchor around the necks of the taxpayers of IASD for decades. Stop before it's too late. And I would argue an anchor around our economy as well. I won't thank the board for allowing public comment because it is required by law.
Thank you, Mr. Longman. Tom Harley.
We've been here before. You've heard the comments before. You're charging ahead regardless of these comments. Tomorrow, we have a chance to have a referendum on the school board, on the school building. I invite all your supporters to come out and vote. I invite all the public to come out and vote. Okay, this is important. This board will change its face tomorrow night. Okay. I can go on. The building you've seen for the first time in 3 months, you've seen plans this weekend. Rooms that were at one point $850 are now $739. I don't know what you're doing. The building is going to be inadequate. We are a growing district on the west side of town. You're proposing to tell the state and handcuff every board for the next 100 years that there will only be 897 students in this building. Well, on the other hand, you're telling PDE 1,600, 1,540. Who knows what the number is? Okay. Tomorrow we get to say. Tomorrow you have to pay attention. Thanks.
I want to make public comment on agenda items E, F, G, and H. Over the past year, the concerns of area residents with regard to the school building project seem to have fallen on deaf ears for most of you. Initially, residents were invited to take a tour of Ben Franklin, meet with the architect, and with some district parents receiving phone calls via the school's automated system, and other parents received this phone call and email notification. The efforts to inform the public since then have been significantly less urgent and at times virtually non-existent. Site plans that were provided to PennDOT for comment were not the most current. Taxpayer requests for current site plans have been rejected and security concerns were cited. This process has not been transparent and has not taken into account the concerns of citizens and taxpayers. The following is based on the PA State Code for kindergarten and elementary buildings and the information that was available on the school district website as of the afternoon of May 12th. The PlanCon F document indicates that there will be a total FTE capacity of either 1050 or 1125 in the new Ben Franklin School proposed to be built. Given the square footage of the rooms and the PA code requirements for space per student, the capacity of the pre-K through 5 classrooms could actually be 11,038 students, not including special ed and gifted classrooms. Setting the occupancy limit to 897 will mean that out of the maximum possible capacity for students, the school district will choose not to use 20% of the available capacity. At a time when resources are limited, not using 20% of available space is fiscally irresponsible and will limit flexibility of use when there are population spikes, which are projected for this area according to a Center for Rural PA study. Do not tie the hands of the district by voting to reduce the capacity limit to 897. Also, do not vote for PlanCon F. The pre-K classroom numbers per the PA State Code is 20 students. In PlanCon F, it says it's going to be 25. Also, for grades 1, 2, and 3, the code also requires 1 toilet and 1 sink per every 15 students of each gender. The floor plans only show 1 restroom with 1 toilet and 1 sink. How thought out is this plan? These are yet other examples of rushing this unneeded and unaffordable project. This is most definitely a project that this board could stop. To all attendees and concerned citizens, your voice will be heard tomorrow. Please vote and impact change.
Thank you. That young lady right back there. Yeah, this is how democracy is supposed to work. I want to thank you for that comment. Because 28 years of my adult life, I was not in a democracy. I was in a very strict order. The military. Now, I have a lot of comments But it seems that this side of the room, a little bit over here, they're not listening. I got 1, 2, maybe 3 questions before my time is up. Question 1. Would you rather have a new building, or great academics? Great academics. Yeah. Question number 2. Do you really think this is a done deal? No. Yeah, we're in the bottom of the 8th, all right? And they think they're going to bat. Well, I'm throwing strike balls, and I feel lucky. Now, there's been a lot of misinformation since September 6th, 2016, September 16th, 2016, when Con Plan A went in, or was commented or introduced by this board for a cost of $23 million. Now, 9 months later, 6 Con Plans later, we still have a cost of $32 million, but in reality, it's more like $45 million, interest included. Also, the numbers in the Con Plan are incorrect. Your projected student populations, current projection, they don't match. And believe me, I've dealt with numbers majority of my life, and yeah, 1 or 2, but when you're off by hundreds, something's wrong. Also, I think the problem, or the issue may be, is Eisenhower's not included. So I think this is a great misinformation plan, or is it the fog of contracting? But I know one person in this room will have 95% of his money when he walks away and hands you the nice goggles and the blueprints. All right? Now, all I have to say is tomorrow, vote, vote, and vote. And thank you.
Lily Blank.
They're coming.
I'm back again! I'm a 13-year-old who should be vegging out beside TV, playing music so loudly that my parents' eardrums should be bleeding out, talking to friends on the phone while reading a book all at the same time. Instead, I'm here at this meeting because I'm worried, confused, and plain old scared about what's happening. Why? First of all, with the bathroom things, I'm really confused with that. How will that work? You know that all the kids are going to just be saving them until one moment, and then there's going to be a massive mayhem attack. Just think about that. Also, what will this accomplish? How will this do anything to help us? Honestly, we went through so many ways. The changing the schools. Okay, we'll just move all the 6th graders up to the junior high. That'll help. Oh, okay, now we'll just switch the 5th and 6th and 4th graders over into different schools, and how will that work? Now you're just making a giant school on the same area where apparently there's a floodplain. There's probably going to be a massive attack, a massive car crashes every time the kids try and go to school because of how you're building this. And I'm so confused by everything. Why? No, no.
What I'm trying to say is, what was I doing? I was doing sign language. But why? I am hard of hearing, and I'm here for those who have disabilities. I heard about plans about those with one elevator. But why one elevator with one building? Because maybe people with a lot of disabilities And why put them in a room with lots of kids? There are people with ADHD who cannot focus very well. And I quote, I am ADHD, I cannot focus, I cannot communicate with those around me, especially with hard of hearing. Now I have 4 people who cannot be here today, and they would like to be in part of it. I don't think it's effective or wise, and I worry about the possible outcomes of this building project. And hard of hearing people, deaf, need more than just note takers or a microphone carried up to the teachers. It's very embarrassing. Kids are actually watching them wherever they go, and it's not very helpful for them. I've had this in my life, and I never really make a lot of friends. So I please suggest that we put kids with people who are hearing and can't hear, with rooms that are not filled with about 20 or 10 kids, but about 5 or 7 kids, because it helps them focus a lot. Disabilities must be given a top priority. It will be hard for those in the cafeteria. I saw the plan. I did not like it. Those who have hard of hearing, who cannot hear cars coming towards them, they need interpreters, note takers. Yet when I was a kid, I never got them. I think if we put all this money aside for those who need it, for those who need an elevator, who need interpreters, note takers, whatever they need. And there are people who have mental disabilities. So I suggest we help them out.
I move that items E, F, G, and H be removed from the agenda.
Second. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I missed it.
The motion was to remove items E, F, G, and H from the agenda.
Okay, to remove E, F, G, and H from the agenda. Okay, let's do any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Steve. The purpose of the motion is for several reasons. Number one, the Gazette editorial. Number two, the previous motion that was passed, and some of these will violate. Number three, the outspoken and continued opposition in large numbers that we've seen here tonight. And number four, tomorrow's primary election.
Well, the previous motion that was passed was not to award any bids. It had nothing to do with soliciting bids. It had nothing to do with setting a occupancy number. All it said is we would not award any bids until permits, and everything was from the township.
In part because of that, but as was explained this evening at the Buildings and Grounds meeting, there is a very distinct possibility that we follow the exact timeline as was presented, that will in fact go to contract, that bid would be awarded prior to those things happening.
Okay. Roll call, please. Roll call vote on eliminating E, F, G, and H from the agenda.
Mr. Barber.
No.
Dr. Clausen. No. Julia Mark-Kukrow. Yes. Mrs. Leeper.
Yes.
Mrs. Packapanicia. No. Mr. Schroeder.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
No.
Mr. Steve.
No.
Dr. Mussolini.
Motion fails. No, but when we get to it, you can kind of.
Okay, we're back.
Letter E. Dr. Mussolini, you take letter E.
That McKissick Associates be authorized to set a student occupancy capacity limit of 897 students for the New Bed-Franklin Elementary School as a condition of the land development plan.
Discussion.
Yes, I have some discussion, Doug. Number one, I just absolutely cannot understand the logic of putting a future board by tying its hands into a precarious predicament and by limiting it to 900 students and forcing whatever additional students to come to East Pike.
Ms. Kirsch, that's before you. Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Monroe. Thank you, first.
I think that changing of these numbers amounts to this board's attempt to bully an independent PennDOT board and also the White Township Planning Commission. I think we all have to work together, and harassing them and thinking that we're going to bully them into this position when we're using two different numbers is reckless, and it's in reckless disregard of the public and the sentiment that's been expressed tonight. So I would hope that this board would think twice before so easily casting their votes to pool election hijinks the night before the election. We asked at the last meeting what the purpose of this meeting was, and you said it was for committee work. You didn't mention that you had planned to try to press vote tomorrow, which isn't going to work. By making people feel that there's no chance, because there is a chance.
For building capacity. PlanCon is just a formula for reimbursement. It has nothing to do with capacity.
Before it was the most important thing you'd ever heard of. Now it's just.
No, it's used to see the reimbursement you will get.
That's incorrect. You're definitely playing with the numbers.
Yes, you are.
If I could, I'll take partial responsibility with the professionals working on the project for the motions that are on here, including this one. We are meeting with PennDOT this week in response to their concerns about the traffic issues with the traffic study. They have concerns of a future board, future administration. If they put more students in the building, PennDOT does not get to come back 5 years later, 10 years later, 15, 20 years later to give another input on traffic concerns that they may have. So in the discussion with the traffic study engineer, the architect, the engineer, the construction manager, and myself discuss what do we need to take to that meeting with PennDOT to try and alleviate their concerns, similar to the process we used in meeting with the White Township Planning Commission, what do we need to do to alleviate their concerns. We've brought items back to the board for you to consider that the access for the fire company, for example, not a code requirement. We supported doing that because that's what the fire chief recommended. And that's what the White Township wanted, so that's where that motion came from. This really follows that same path. Why 897? I'd like to have a little bit higher number, but 897 was the number used in the submission by HRG for the traffic study. That's really where it came from. If PennDOT would say it's 900, I think it's 900. If they said it could be 925, which is what I've calculated as the functional capacity of the school based on the number of classrooms or class size guidelines. This doesn't limit the enrollment of that building to 897 for its 50 to 100 year life, whatever that may be. It's if you want to exceed that, you then have to address PennDOT's concerns, which then are also White Township's concerns. So the submission for the land development is a maximum of 897 in order to get those approvals, and if at any other time in the future board wants to make it higher, you will have to do another traffic study, and it may call for a turning lane. That's all that is. So that's my comments.
I understand that we're dealing with numbers that, the 897 number is a projected enrollment, and the higher PlanCon numbers are calculated numbers based upon state formulas given the number of classrooms. they're going to come out differently. And that doesn't concern me. What concerns me is whether we're getting a traffic plan that is only marginally acceptable. If the traffic load presented and the solution that's being presented for it is just teetering on the edge of being workable, I'm a little concerned, not that we're tying the hands of future boards, but that we're creating a recurring problem for that neighborhood that we should be addressing now.
You got it.
Thank you.
I mentioned this in the committee meeting. I want to mention this again too tonight. We currently have 15 full-size buses going to Ben Franklin. Okay, this new building will have 18. Prior to the reconfiguration, we had 8 buses going to Ben Franklin. We now have 15. We almost doubled the size of the buses. If we were going to make a turning lane, I would think that would be the right time to do it. Of course, we did not have a traffic study. We didn't have to explain why we went from 3 buses going into Eisenhower to 15 buses going into Eisenhower. So, you know what, if we were going to put a traffic lane in there, a turning lane, we probably should have done it when we did the reconfiguration.
Get double the students.
Say that cars, not to put one in, I consider that a cost overrun, because anybody, I mean, the people at PennDOT and White Township are not stupid. They work hard, just like this board does. They're intelligent people, just like every other taxpayer. It's going to be congested with this new school. To say otherwise defies sense. But to later have to come back and put in that makes this school, you know, we've been projecting all along it's a $40 to $50 million school. It starts to add up.
That's right.
And that is exactly my concern about moving these things to the agenda. I think it's time to, you know, let's get it out and get it done. You know, this postponing this till the next time, whenever it is, or it gets back on the agenda, doesn't make any sense to me. And I would concur with what Mr. Barber had said over here. We're right on the edge. It just doesn't make any sense to me to go ahead with this with that number.
The one thing also is when the gymnasium was built, there was numbers used for the parking on the back. White Township wanted us to redo Clinton Street, Knox Avenue, but they reduced the number of parking spots in the back just so they didn't have to do that. So, I mean, we're not doing anything differently here. We're looking at numbers, and if there isn't, we have no clue what PennDOT's going to say. They may say 950. I mean, 897 is where we are now. That's just one time through looking at the attendance lines, potentially.
Yeah, but my concern is we're building a structure that is going to be, if we do this, they're going to be with us for the next 50 to 75 years. I really want to make sure we get it as right as we can get it. And I have been, you know, I realize that there is some slack in our ability to redefine enrollment lines and transfer some students to East Pike. And all of that still makes sense to me. But the one design feature of this building that has nagged at me is not fully satisfying me in envisioning how the building would work is the parent pickup drop-off. It's really problematic. I'm not a traffic engineer, and I don't really think that I can speak to that as intelligently as a traffic engineer could. But I don't want an artificial solution. I want one that really, really works on the ground.
I have to say that I can't support this. I think it's kicking the can down the road, saving money now to just pay for it later. Dale has said this is the number that he suggests, that it's not the capacity. I think it's very short-sighted. It limits the boards and what they have to spend in the future if they don't have the funds. It does not make sense. It's very short-sighted. We should be making the best of the best if we're going to do this and make it right. And this is not the way to do it.
to amend the motion to read that Ms. McKissick Associates be directed to use 1,125 students as the New Ben Franklin school capacity on all permit applications, other documents, studies, including but not limited to the PennDOT study related to the project. And for Nice's benefit, here's a copy of it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. We still have to vote on the original one. You just want to amend it.
I'm amending it. The motion is to amend the motion to read what.
Okay, this is, we're voting on to approve the amendment of 1,125.
Roll call.
So we're voting yes, will be approved 1,125 amendment.
Right. Dr. Clausen. Julia Jamarki Kukare. Mrs. Leeper.
Yes.
Mrs. Packard-Panicia.
No.
Mr. Schroeder.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
No.
Mr. Steve.
No.
Dr. Usselin.
No.
Mr. Barber.
No.
Motion fails. So we are back at the motion of 897 students.
Still discussing.
Yeah.
The only input I have at this moment is with trying to get this is that I found Mr. Barber's comments very compelling. And so I am concerned about that number. On the other hand, any other number someone pulls out, puts on a motion, doesn't give me any stronger comfort. I would like to know more because I think we all share the point he made, which is however we move forward, we want this to be something everybody's comfortable with. It is accurate and it does take into account the larger issues of safety. And I don't say that to recruit anyone's support or favor on this board or anywhere else, but I think the number does need to be carefully looked at so that if it triggers something else, then that's something we have to acknowledge. But I think his points are well made, and I think that jump to another artificial number is no less convincing.
The number was more artificial when it came off the plan con document.
I don't know that you could defend it sufficiently to the points Mr. Barber made.
Dr. Slade.
If you look at the study that McKissick did on our threat enrollment, there's no indication that our enrollment's going to reach that level in the next 5 to 10 years. So to use 1,100 seems to be artificial. If this motion fails, then when HRG and McKissick meet with PennDOT, then we'll work out some solution that we'll need to get PennDOT's permission to move forward. So whether it's 897, 900, or whatever, I'm sure PennDOT will come back with a recommendation that we'll need to take into consideration.
I just want to reiterate, the purpose, my purpose of this motion was a good faith message to PennDOT to address their concerns. We can find out what their concerns are on Thursday and bring it back in June. I don't know what that does to their timeline and the White Township Planning Commission's timeline. White Township had 90 days to approve. They were granted an extension to, the architect gave them an extension until their June 13th meeting. It's past the 90 days. We're just trying to work within their requirements, everyone else's requirements, and try and address their concerns. According to HRG, traffic engineer, 897 does not require a turning lane, 900 does not require a turning lane, 925 probably doesn't require a turning lane, but they weren't confident that PennDOT would feel strong enough about it if we were at 925. 950 probably requires a turning lane. That's close to Those are HRG's numbers. They're not mine. I'm just repeating their.
But I still remain concerned that even if we end up spending more money now, if we're going to do this thing, I want to see it done right.
Thank you.
I don't object to that, Mr. Barber, at all. I mean, I'd like to see, what the architect and come back with, and perhaps what we need to do is table this motion until we get more information.
Well, I think we could table. I think we could also take a vote on it. If it is defeated, we are back where we started from. which is that the architect and HRG and PennDOT need to sit down and talk and try to find what is a good solution.
Okay, we're gonna have a roll call vote on letter E.
Julia Jamarca Kukrow. No. Mrs. Leeper. No. Mrs. Packard-Panicia. Yes. Mr. Schroeder.
No.
Mr. Smith.
No.
Mr. Steve.
Yes.
Dr. Mussolini.
Yes.
Mr. Barber.
No.
Dr. Flyer.
Okay, motion fails 3-6. Next one on the agenda, letter F. Dr. Mussolini.
That Plan Con F for the new Ben Frank Elementary School be approved as submitted. That Plan Con F for the new Ben Franklin Elementary School be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Who fills out this form?
The architect completes the plan con documents, I do review them.
Can you speak to the errors that were brought up during public comment?
Based on my experience with it, I suspect PDE will approve it as written.
And do we feel, I guess I feel uncomfortable approving something that is riddled with errors.
I don't believe it's riddled with errors. I think they're just misinterpretations.
So in some of the boxes that weren't checked that were just blank?
I'm just telling you that with all the plan con done here as much as the architect, I think it'll be approved with the, as submitted or with minor edits with PDE.
I guess from reading through it, and I didn't have time to go through it with fine tooth comb, and maybe I'm misinterpreting some things too, but would it be possible that we go through it together to have questions answered? So, I mean, I can't support it the way I understand it at this point in time.
Okay, that's a roll call vote.
Just a minute. So what you're proposing, Tamara, then is that at the next board meeting, we go through it line item by line item?
Right. I mean, in the past, I have supported all the Plan Con motions because I think that it is irresponsible to turn our back on that funding. But I also have a hard time supporting something if I'm not sure that it is accurate. And I had some of the same questions that the community members raised as far as numbers, accuracy, numbers being something on one page, not on the other. So I would just like to, if we could go over it in another meeting, I may be able to support it because again, I don't want to turn my back on money, but I just don't feel like I can support it at this time.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, I don't think it's a bad idea at all in terms of community, by that I mean small city community review of a document that people are questioning. I'm just wondering if that couldn't be a relatively quickly scheduled outreach committee and anyone can sit down as who chooses to or wishes to and has any level of discomfort. Personally, just because of my background, I know this is about Plan Con satisfying PDE. I don't think it ties our hands. So I'm not as worried about that, but I totally respect what you're saying. So I would just suggest a quickly scheduled meeting so that people who came forth with areas that didn't match and things that were missing can be heard separately. Still, I would support this.
Yes, I'd like to state, I think what we have is people who don't understand the form. There are multiple, yes, sir. I think what we have, I have to take exception to this being riddled with errors. The document is not. I think people just read the form that they don't understand because the Department of Education looks at many ratios, many formulas, many calculations to develop the numbers that they use in their verification. It is not immediately impaired. He's never made a lot of sense. It's a system put together by the legislature 35 years ago, but it's what we work within. I'm looking through the document I have here. I can't find these supposed errors. They'll show you.
Vern, two things that I noticed right away. One where you did not check off the box on asbestos abatement.
That's correct, because asbestos abatement is not being done as part of the project. It's being done within the overall funding, but not part of the Plan Con project. The reason for that, sir, the reason for that is the Department of Education's own requirements. then since it's a whole building demolition, and it's not a renovation addition to a school building, it is considered outside of the plan con calculations. There was also a comment made as to why we no longer have a kitchen contract. That was a recommendation of your construction manager based upon recent project bids they had, that they felt better numbers came from having the general contractor responsible for coordinating the installation of the kitchen equipment. It's not my recommendation. It's theirs. It's one that we have seen in the past. We've done it both ways. So I don't consider that an error. I consider that an adjustment and refinement to documents that we're working on behalf.
The second point was you listed a general and then your MEPs as your contractors, but apparently we're going to have a site contractor as well if this other motion passes this evening.
Again, the work that we're talking about for the site contract would be outside of the purview of the plan con project. As such, it's considered a Form 741 non-reimbursable piece of work. As such, it would not be listed here as one of these 4 prime contracts. It is listed on the PlanCom G paperwork. That would be the bids when received. It's listed elsewhere in the document, but summated within the total cost. And that's just the Department of Education's rules. I don't make them up. I simply work within them.
And then the Energy Star for the building, I believe it got a rating of 79.
That's correct. That means the building as designed currently will perform better than 80% of other buildings in the country are being designed and built.
Okay, and on the back of that form, as I recall, there were some boxes that were yes and no answers that weren't checked.
Where were you looking?
On the back of the Energy Star form.
Yeah, and again, the point, I think they aren't checked here. This document is not a required part of the PlanCon estimation. It was only included to show the total calculation that came from the EPA's website. We are not submitting at this time. This document would be submitted at a later date to the EPA if we were trying to receive an Energy Star rating for a completed building or for a building with
But the Energy Star form has to be filled out as part of the PlanCon process.
The only thing that we're required to do is run the Energy Star comparison number and report that on PlanCon. If you recall, we also had to do that as part of the PlanCon D and E documents. It's how the department tracks and encourages, efficiency. They want districts to be looking at energy efficiency.
I have one more comment, but I'll defer to Bill at this point and finish mine later.
I did read, and it was hard to see. It was a little small. But on my 12 years experience on the State Board of Education and dealing with the Department of Education, I concur completely with Dr. Clausen. This will not box us in on anything. It looked completely like many that I've seen before, and I don't see any problem with it at all.
Since non-board members are being allowed to speak,
Okay,
answer the question about why Eisenhower, he's not a board member.
No, he is
and
not.
he was not invited
He
to
is not.
speak.
He should not be able to speak.
As our hired architect.
I don't care.
Mr. Schroeder, last question.
The last point, Mr. Kissick, would you please read for us the certification that you signed on the last page of the document, I believe?
There are 2 certifications in the document. The one that we execute is the F-17. That simply indicates where the state required regulations are referenced in the specifications, what page. That's for department. That's for the. That's for the department's use. The other page you may be referring to, I believe, is page A-15.
One that has your signature on it.
Sure. Let me find it. F-20, I'm sorry. The F-20 page is indicating that we have the requirements and the certification that we have made the board aware of those submissions that will be required for the project to be able to be approved. ensure that you will not enter into construction contracts, and that happens after bids are received, prior to having those approvals in hand. And the reason the department does that is they make reimbursements a prerequisite on having all approvals before bids are received. They want to ensure that all costs for the project are being recorded in the bid document, which is the Plan Con G, which we'll get to at that point in time. So this is the standard form. I cannot think of any project we've ever had a Plan Con for every last approval's been in hand physically at the time we went in for the review process. But what we are not going to do, of course, and I think as you've indicated, we're not going to go out to bid without land development approval, at least a conditional basis. But the other items that we're looking at here would be PennDOT. It's really land development, that's the only thing we're talking about here. We have Army Corps of Engineers approval, we have the general permits for construction in the floodplain, we have PHMC approvals, we have gotten utility approvals, we've gotten gas company approvals. I mean, we've talked to the gas well provider on the site. I mean, we chased everything down, we worked every item, and we're down to the one item which is on the township's list, which is the PennDOT highway occupancy issue. We're attempting to work through resolution on that, and I think as the superintendent said tonight, our concern was PennDOT seems to want some assurance that we're not going to put 12 or 14 or 1,500 people. They've been reading all kinds of erroneous numbers in the paper with capacities. They asked us about 1,420 kids. They read in the paper. I don't know where this stuff comes from. We're trying to say if the board votes on it, this will be the capacity. Use that for the calculations. And we're using the traffic study. And I'm not a traffic engineer, but we've involved in many of them. Is a very specific set of formulas. PennDOT, we met with them. I think the second day we were hired, that was our first visit, was to PennDOT to discuss how they want the traffic study, what calculation methodology they want, what intersection study. As you know, we've gone back and we've stated there's still 3 different times to hit every possible area of the community on that side. So there's no attempt to, as we alluded to quote the numbers. We're simply trying to give them some assurance as to what numbers can be input into the formulas, which is their math. It's in the standard traffic planning manual. It's not, witchcraft. But anyhow, that's what F20 is related to, and I will stand here and sign it, 50 copies of it, that make you aware of all the approvals that you need.
And then I move to amend the motion to read the Plan Con F not be submitted to PDE until all building permits are issued hand in hand.
Okay, roll call vote on the amendment.
Mrs. Leeper. Yes. Mrs. Packaponicia. No. Mr. Schreck.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
No.
Mr. Steve.
No.
Dr. Ussolini.
No.
Mr. Barber.
No.
Dr. Clausen. No. Julia Jamarki-Kukrow. Yes.
Motion fails 3-6. So we are voting on the actual motion on the agenda for Plan Con F. Roll call.
Mrs. Packaponicia. Yes. Mr. Schreck.
No.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Steve.
Yes.
Dr. Ussolini.
Yes.
Mr. Barber.
Yes.
Dr. Clausen. Yes. Julia Jamarki-Kukrow. Nope. Mrs. Leeper. No.
Motion passes 6-3. Letter G, advanced bid package. Mr. Barber, will you take that?
That McKissick Associates be authorized to solicit bids for an advanced bid package for site work only for the new Ben Franklin Elementary School.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
And
This is the one. Whether or not it's a good project, and all the stuff I'm saying seems to be a good project, we cannot do this site. It sends a terrible message if you do it in context of the whole project. If we decide here at the last minute to split this bid up, I just don't see any justification for not bidding this in one package, one time, where we have the full 60 days to look at it. This plan, as we talked about in the Building and Grounds Committee, gives us a because I calculated a 13-day space between putting out the bids and when we expect to award it. It seems to me this has got to be all one package or no package. So anything that splits it, I just cannot support, given all the things I know and all the time I have spent looking at this project since I was appointed to this board. So I'm a no on this.
I just have a question and a thought, because it's my understanding this is about $350,000, am I correct? Okay. Would it be beneficial, since this is such a big chunk and this is something that we could separate out from the building itself, would this, to move ahead to, when we do bid the project out, have this in it and then use this as an alternative bid, you know, if we wanted to somehow, save some money in building that. That's just a thought, I just throwing that out there.
And I don't think you can do that. I think that work is required to be done to upgrade to some of the utilities for the new project. I don't think you can just make that an option at this point.
Well, we couldn't do that.
This is purely a phasing issue. Once we knew the bid for the whole project was not going to go out, so that this work could get done in the summertime, this was a recommendation from the construction manager that having the site work occur once school's back in session is going to be problematic. It can be done, but it's going to be disruptive. We're going across the bus lanes, parent pickup lanes, all those things. Knowing when we were putting it together that be approving this when you don't know what your actual bids are received, we know that's a concern. But we want to be clear with the board that we may regret not doing it this summer and having it occur once school's back in session, so that each of you have to weigh that in your decision making, the risk of whether the bids come in too high and you don't proceed with the project versus bids come in low enough and you approve the project and this ends up getting done in September and October. We prefer all things standard to have it part of the regular bid, but if we can't get it's part of the regular bid needs an alternate, it's not going to get done until after school's underway. It's purely about timing and to try and keep this work occurring before kids are back in the building.
I mean, the thing is we're just soliciting bids, we're not awarding anything. And
Correct. The timing is to not have the bids approved until June 19th, because that's after the next Township Planning Commission meeting. Your next board meeting is June 12th. Not to have it on that agenda, but on the June 19th agenda, because the Township Planning Commission meets on the 13th. If PennDOT issues, if we have approval from PennDOT, and that triggers the White Township Planning Commission's approval, you're considering this after the Planning Commission is hopefully make whatever their decision is.
And the other thing is, we will have a updated, more fine-tuned cost estimate with the current design from Macero here in the next.
And that's it. The updated estimate from Macero based on, we're very close to the bid specifications, all the documents, all the drawings being done. So they anticipate on the first week of June having an updated estimate one that they gave to us.
So we would not award any of this till June 19th, and we'll have at least seen what Macero has said with the new cost estimate with the final design.
But if I understand correctly, we will not have the bids returned for what would be a major vote to support this project. Is that correct? We won't have that.
The entire project, that's not slated to be, the earliest for that to be approved would be late July, so it won't start before school starts.
Could you describe, based on your experience with other projects, what this will look like if this work is done after the vote on whether the entire project goes forward? What will that be?
They're going to have to dig trenches, for the utilities and for the various parts of that site work, and then they're probably going to have to do it on after school. Then they're going to have to cover it. Since buses and cars can travel over it, typically what you see is road construction where they have to open it up and then restrict traffic and make restrictions because you have an open ditch with vehicles traveling over it. So they can make accommodations for it. It's not as good, not nearly as good as it's done before.
For what period of time would you estimate? For what period of time once they begin, would you estimate? Working nights and weekends?
September, October, minimum those 2 months.
And, go ahead. No, my question would be, go in doing this into September and October when the students are there, do we anticipate an increased cost with waiting until everything's done?
I can't speculate on that. The only thing we're, as was mentioned in the committee meeting earlier this evening, the August 2018 completion date is passed. No way we're going to meet that. The new timeline is in December 2018. Does this push it to January 2019? Possibly. Does that have a cost impact? Possibly, but I can't predict that.
So, I'm sorry.
No, Ms. Lee.
Okay, so if we get these bids back, when we award them, will that not violate the motion that we had a couple meetings ago not to spend any money?
I don't believe so, because if we don't have the Township Planning Commission approval on June 13th, we don't award this on June 19th. We won't award this until we have the White Township Planning Commission's approval. Mr. Smith,
The trade-off that's requested here is that we risk $300,000 worth of expenses which will prove to be wasted money if we don't do the project, as against buying a month's earlier start if we do the project. That's the trade that's being requested.
And my concern is just as it was in the committee meeting. I'm concerned about timeline and perception. And these good people have legitimate concerns about what we're doing here. And when you piecemeal this bid, all it does is say you guys are right. You know, we just can't, in my opinion, you just can't split this bid. It's got to go out to one person, one time, and that's it.
Okay, roll call vote.
Yeah, I certainly agree that this is, particularly once the timeline was explained, I think there's too much danger. 300 or 350,000, I believe, was the range that was mentioned. And I think John Barber laid it out very succinctly, which like we're playing craps here. We get the project, then we've saved a month or 2 months. If we don't, then we spent $350,000. And I don't think we should, particularly given the nature of this project, I don't think we should be gambling with that kind of money.
Okay, roll call vote.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Mr. Steve?
Yes.
Dr. Mussolini?
No.
Mr. Barber?
No.
Dr. Clausen? No. Julia Markey-Kukrow? No. Mrs. Leeper? No. Mrs. Packard-Panicia? No. Mr. Schroeder?
No.
Motion fails. Okay. Construction trailer.
That the administration be authorized to solicit proposals for a construction trailer for the new Ben Franklin Elementary School project rather than a construction trailer being included in the specification of the project.
Yeah, this is the simplest of all. The general specifications would include a construction trailer to be provided by the general contractor. The district probably can get a little bit cheaper off state contract, but if the district does it, and this is just to get the proposals, we'll bring the proposals back to the board for your approval, whether it's June 19th, June 26th, could be second Tuesday in July. It was get a recommendation from the construction manager that if you get the trailer through the district, it's less about saving a little bit of money, it's more about having the trailer that are ready to go. So once bids are awarded and there's time till the contractors get up on skip speed, it would be there ready for them to start as soon as you're putting shovels in.
Do we have the same kind of issue about timing on the trailer? When would we acquire this piece?
Mr. Kirsch just said about we wouldn't approve it until July. I mean, we wouldn't.
If we approve it the fourth week in July, there's really not much benefit.
So the
You
proposed,
have to approve it second.
proposed approval would be done at the same time as the rest of the project?
Again, it was just an attempt to save a couple weeks in the timeline, that's purely.
Excuse me, was it an attempt to save time or money or both?
I'd say 95, 98% time, small percentage cost.
Where are we gonna get the money? If it's
It would come out of the construction fund, it just gets pulled out of the planned funds.
So it would not become part of it later.
It would
So
be,
we're throwing the baggage off the
it would
ship.
still become a cost of the total project, but just not part of it.
Not part of the bid, so the bid will come in lower.
It's definitely not to try and get the business bid lower this time. We would still factor in that cost and the cost of the project.
What's
We would.
what's the ballpark cost? How much money is?
I don't have that. I actually, Sarah was working with the trailer leasing companies to get us a couple proposals.
He had said at one meeting about $100,000 when he was in here, Mr. Massaro, smaller guy. Yeah, he said about $100,000.
Two things. First of all, all you're talking is a couple of weeks at the most. Most of these trailers could be had in a week or 10 days. So I think once the contractor began to mobilize, that would be one of the first things he would do.
It's a little bit longer because there's utilities have to be connected and all that. It's not just setting it, there's more they have to do. Yeah, we're not talking, I don't think we're talking a month, we're probably talking a few weeks.
The other question that my point is I don't see that there's a need to rush because of that. And the second thing is, we discussed in the Buildings and Grounds Committee the letter that Ben Ford received from the historical group in Harrisburg. And Mr. Massaro pointed out that there has been some changes in the laydown area and so on. And before we begin to commit to putting equipment, material, whatever, on the site, I, as a board member and member of that committee, want to see those plans as to where that laydown area is going to be and how it's actually going to be organized. So I think we should wait at least until that is done.
So if we don't approve this tonight, are we not going to get the construction trailer ourselves and let Sarah get it? Or whoever, the general. So is it either,
They're working on the bid specifications, they're finalizing them. This is just a timing issue, but if it gets approved tonight, they will pull it out of the bid specifications that they're trying to finalize. If it doesn't pass tonight, they'll leave it in the bid specifications as they are currently.
okay, so we can approve this and it not be acted upon until everything else is acted upon? Yes.
The board can decide when to act on it, because it's a state contract, so you don't have to bid it separately. Just if you approve it at the same time as all the other major bids, which may choose to do that, you're not really going to save time.
But we will save money. We could potentially save money.
We suspect you would save a little bit money. But I don't know that, because you're not going to have something to compare it to. When the contractors submit their bid, they're going to give you a dollar value for the whole scope of their project. It's not going to carve out the trailer. Okay, so roll call vote on the construction trailer.
Mr. Steve,
Yes.
Dr. Mussolini,
No.
Mr. Barber,
No.
Dr. Clausen. No. Julia Jamarki Kukrow. No. Mrs. Leeper. No. Mrs. Packapanicia. Yes. Mr. Schroeth.
No.
Mr. Smith.
No.
Okay, motion fails 2-7. Letter I, the activity bids. Dr. Mussolini.
That the bituminous paving bid for the Indiana Area Senior High School be awarded to K. Dolan Corporation of Blairsville, further bid in the amount of $258,358.
Second.
Kirsch. Mr. Kernauer, we really coordinated this with the architect, but the low bidder did withdraw their bid. They had a mathematical error. They did submit it within the required time. That calculated their error. So this is the second lowest bidder. I believe we had $200,000 in the capital reserve fund for paving. This is a little higher, but it's less than we anticipated it might be. So this would actually complete all the paving at senior high. We had talked about doing it in phases. It's like a $200,000 number. When you do it in phases, it spreads the cost out over several years. It does cost you more because it's set up and the staging all. There's costs that come in. So we recommend you ultimately we manage $58,000 additional on the capital reserve fund.
It'll be done this summer?
Yes.
And we have our, with Mr. Trout be overseeing it, making sure that what's in the specs is exactly what's.
Yes.
And that building is used during the summer,
You have kids going up there for band practice and, music lessons and those kinds of things, even for, some online, they're gonna meet with their teachers.
Yeah, there'll be areas that they'll access through the different entrances. They'll coordinate.
Okay, so there will be a place for
Yeah, we're not going to pave the back and the front of the temple at the same time.
Okay.
Just, I'm not sure what board members know, but the pavement is beyond repair. We even had a proposal a couple years ago to reseal the track, preserve it, some life to it, and the sealing company said waste of money, it's beyond being sealed.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Digital media production bids, Dr. Usolini.
The bids for the digital media production renovations at the Indiana Senior High School be awarded as follows. General Construction, J.C. Orr and Son of Altoona for $43,900. Mechanical Plumbing Construction, Mervac from Windberg, $47,100. Electrical Construction, Mashan from Home VA at $31,600.
Okay, Mr. Kirsch.
I believe this is the third time we did this project. It's substantially over what the original bid was. We amended the specifications a year ago. Bids came in similar to what they came in the rebid. So if we want to do this, we've exhausted all our attempts to try to get that cost down. We stripped as much out of it as we could without taking away from the integrity of it. It's essentially taking one classroom and turning it into 3 smaller studios with some other with office space for the instructors. The instructor's already moved down to that area. He has a classroom next to it. It gets them to do what they're able to do. We've exhausted, I repeat myself, we exhausted all efforts to try to get it in cheaper.
Yeah, discussion.
I'd just like, I'm glad this is finally getting done because we've been talking about this for as long as I've been on the board, so, in our digital media production, students, they do a remarkable job, they win awards, and, so I'm glad we're finally moving ahead with this.
Will the project get finished this summer? Or
Yes.
is it scheduled?
The intention is to do some.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Public comment on agenda items. Please state your, the letter of the agenda item.
E, F, G, and H. I think I'm just here basically to thank Larry McCoy, who was able to film the entire school board meeting. And I think that it's so important. Like when you go online and you look at even just Montoursville Area School District and their school board meetings, it really gives you a perspective on their situation. And I think it was very kind of him, and maybe that's something that the school district should do on a regular basis. Like I said earlier, democracy is a lot of hard work, but I believe in it. And I believe that if we vote and we vote somebody into power, that they should represent us. Isn't that the ultimate goal of democracy? Is representative government. We elect you and we trust you to make the best decisions. And as a school, in the school board, the best decisions affect our children and affects the taxpayers. And it is a very difficult job. And I thank each and every one of you. I am not taking your jobs for granted. But I think that we need to step back and make some really good decisions. We do have legal counsel. We do have a solicitor. This community is taking it very seriously. And I learned a lot from the people in Lycoming. And they did not end up in a very good place. And I don't want this community to end up in the same place. We need to be very careful. These are very difficult economic times. These are very difficult times for people. Healthcare is changing. This is going to affect our growing senior population. I think it's very important to vote. I think it's very important to take the community's voice seriously. I do feel that the community is, I am confident that this community will be able to raise the funds necessary to pay for this legal action, because we understand the immediacy and the urgency of this situation. And I ask you to please look around your community before you take any further votes. Thank you.
Same numbers, letters, sorry. But first, I want to apologize, especially to Ms. Leeper, for that unnecessary outburst and grabbing of your water bottle. I'm sorry. We all concur that was rude. Also, none of us knew what was planned to be said, so please don't ever accuse any of us of saying we sent somebody in here to say or do the things that were just said and done. I don't approve of them. I don't appreciate them. The outburst was unnecessary, and I do apologize. I'm really glad that tonight we saw a bit of common sense come out on this board. It's necessary that you start thinking before you react. I don't appreciate that the architect was allowed to come up and speak, because you don't allow us that open dialogue. And that is one thing that is so frustrating. It's very frustrating for all of us to sit here. We want to ask questions, we want answers. We don't get them. We don't get them. And then you accuse us of being boorish or a number of other names. And it's not right. We tried to work with you all from the beginning. We came into this with open minds. Right now, you've got an entire majority community of people that are opposed to this. They're opposed to what you're doing. They're opposed to how we are being treated. Those of us that have the time to come and stand up and fight for people in this community who is so downtrodden right now after this reassessment. I was at the courthouse the other day for a Lyme disease proclamation, which, by the way, thanks for not answering my email about Lyme disease and the students. But I took a look at the wall again, the sheriff's cell wall. Lots and lots of notices up there. There's going to be a lot more. But I really do want to say thank you for those of you who listened to us tonight, those of you that took under consideration this traffic study. 1,332 current students, 480 at Ben Franklin, 227 at East Pike. If you double that at Ben Franklin, and I ask that any one of you go sit in the mini-mart and then talk to people that go in and out of that mini-mart or the bank. Ask them how they feel about increased traffic. It's a nightmare getting out of there. AM drop-off, PM pickup, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. They don't need this doubled. We don't need it doubled. You need to sit back, slow down, and listen, because tomorrow is going to make a big difference in this school district and how it's moving. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Larry, for filming this. I am very happy about the digital media for the high school. I think it's really exciting, and thank you for voting for that. Could I maybe ask if we could get a camera and a tripod? And I'm not asking for live streaming and special wiring, but you are deciding, and future boards are deciding really important decisions that impact our lives. And I think it's really important that it get captured, all the contents of the meetings. We have a really interested public out there, and I think we're going to continue to be involved. And sometimes we don't make meetings. I didn't make last Monday's meeting, and I called Mr. Kirsch, but it was kind of a late notice to get a video camera that I understand you own several at some of the schools, and and a tripod because I wanted to see what I was missing, but we couldn't get that done, and he was supposed to ask the board, and I did send an email to each and every one, so I'm hoping in the interest of transparency and trying to revive some public trust again in the board, we could maybe get a tripod and a video camera for a very small amount of money. Like I'm talking probably less than $120 to film future board meetings because we're all very engaged now. Thank you.
Agenda item F, Plan Con F. One, I want to echo the concern about the architect interjecting himself without a question from a member of the board, while other members of the public were told to shush and be quiet when they asked viable questions. During the public comment period at the beginning, there were a number of questions about why Eisenhower Elementary was not listed on Plan Con F03. Questions that were ignored during the discussion of that agenda item. The PSBA's Principles for Governance and Leadership call for school boards to communicate clearly and to promote open, honest, and respectful dialogue. In the absence of responding to meaningful and significant questions, you fail that obligation. We have a right to know what's going on. The architect swears it's not an error. There are no errors in the document. So what's the choice that's being made? That's being hidden from us? Back to your comment from before, the appearance is as bad as the reality. The appearance is shady. Politely shady. Thank you.
Okay, our next board meeting.
Sorry. My name is Josh Woodison. My address is 107 Nicola Lane, and my remarks do not represent the opinions of Renda Broadcasting. I wish to speak to item J. As a product of the digital media program from its second year, thanks, because I know that it got me interested in journalism. It got me where I am. So thank you for making those upgrades.
Gary Kerr, item E. Wanted to talk, I think and I want to thank everybody or majority of the board to realize that that traffic impact study is teetering on whether safety improvements are needed. And of course, if those safety improvements are needed, that's going to cost time and money. And it could be a lot of time depending upon what improvements are required, and it could be a lot of money. The architect, he either doesn't understand the traffic impact study process or he's misrepresenting. I don't know which it is. Say Walmart comes to PennDOT and says, we want to build a new Walmart store. They have different size boxes or store square footages that they can build. Of course, their preference would be to come in and say, we're building the smallest one, but they're actually building the biggest one. So my point is, the process is, it doesn't matter what number you guys come up with. What matters is what does the school hold? That's the process. Thank you.
Talking about E, F, G, H. During the discussion this evening, we heard lots of uncertainty and lots of I don't know and lots of, well, it depends. The amount of uncertainty that many of you all were comfortable with in the Plan Con F document, and you approved it anyway, is really concerning. If I were spending $32 million, I would not accept this level of uncertainty. This is the same level of uncertainty that has our community so concerned about this project. and they've come to meeting after meeting to voice their concerns. And in meeting after meeting, some of you have been disrespectful and have not even paid attention. You want us to respect you. I think the community deserves the same amount of respect.
Tom Harley. I'd like to clarify something because we have so many numbers flying around here. The actual population of your elementary school K to 5 is 1332 in 2017 in May. The 2016 it was 1303. The projection in the PlanCon documents 1267. Contrary to popular opinion, the facts are is Indiana at this young grade is growing, and we should not be designing a building to meet the current population when it's clearly growing. The Southwest Pennsylvania Planning Commission has us growing at 1% for the next 25 years, 19% in 25 years. Those kids are going to go somewhere, and they're not going to the east side of town. There's not enough space over there. They're going to be on the west side of town. Planning this building for a minimum number sets us down the wrong path. Planning this building as if we can, like it's a chalkboard, and we can simply erase the mistakes we made in 2017 and fix a traffic problem. Add a traffic lane, add 2 traffic lanes, add street lights. Okay? The property that you're going to build that road with is coming off the Ben Franklin site. You can't go and take it from the other side, and you can't steal it from somebody else. So the road expansion is going to happen on your side of the street. You haven't planned on it. But at some point, okay, it's clear that that building is and that piece of Ben Franklin is overstressed. Okay? PennDOT has never allowed, on any of my projects, us to continue to overstress the street. They'll force Sheets to fix the street. They'll force the developer they forced Lowe's and Giant Eagle to expand Ben Franklin. The other thing I'd like to bring up is on page 20 of the PlanCon document, which I don't understand. The following certification is submitted in lieu of documentation of HTC approvals, permits, and service availability letters. That means I can go to the gas company and get a letter, and I can certify that we went to the gas company, except for local and county planning commissions, copies of which must be submitted. You're going to submit PlanCon F without a letter from White Township. White and PDE should reject this. Without that letter, any project, any further processing of PlanCon should be denied. Secondly, on F20, it says board resolution. Now, I thought a board resolution was a board resolution. You passed a motion. So I don't know how you're going to get Anise to sign this when there was no board resolution passed tonight. Thank you.
You sure, Tom? Tom, are you sure?
What? Ms. Barker, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, wait a minute.
Are you ready?
Yep.
I'm sorry that you doubt my speech. If you would have asked, I would have gladly got up here and told you there are definite errors in the document. If your architect is so sure of himself, yet he continuously makes errors in the PlanCon documents, how can you guarantee this building is going to be built correctly? Thank you.
Doug, question. The question Mr. Harley raised about the resolution that was in the bottom of the PlanCon document and what we passed here today are not the same. Is there an explanation as to how that actually works? Maybe the question is better addressed to Dale. Or, you know, so
I'm unsure of the question you're asking.
Okay, so earlier tonight, we passed a motion to submit Plan Con F as presented or submitted, and that motion did pass. Okay, in that same page F20 that I was questioning Mr. McKissick on his certification, there's, at the very bottom of it, there is a board resolution, okay, that I believe you could interpret as having had the board pass that specific resolution, and a place down there for, I believe, the board secretary, Ms. Marple, to actually sign and certify that that resolution was in fact passed. And so I'm asking essentially to
We approve Plan Con F as submitted. That includes the resolution on page F20.
okay, so the position then is that because we approved the entire Plan Con F document, it automatically included that resolution in it. Is that correct?
My understanding.
Your understanding that we know the truth.
Okay, the next board meeting will be a regular meeting on Monday, June 12th at 7:30. Motion for adjournment? Second.